Palestinian terrorists rammed through a security barrier at the Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, causing the airport to go into temporary lockdown. Gaza fired a rocket into Israel Saturday night, prompting a swift response from the IDF. A tour guide in Samaria escaped a deadly attack by driving through a roadblock of burning tires. And if the media headlines are correct, then an Israeli police officer killed a Palestinian in cold blood in Huwara. Is this actually what happened? I'm Josiah, and this is the Israel Guys. Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda that you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Thank you guys for joining us again. Welcome back to the show. First off, like we always say, make sure to subscribe. We really appreciate that. Get us to more subscribers. It helps get the word out to more people. Also, like this video, puts it in the YouTube algorithm more, and again, makes it available for more people to watch and see the true news that's happening here in the land of Israel. Had some unusual incident occur yesterday, actually. A vehicle, turns out he was a Palestinian, rammed through a security barrier at the Ben Gurion Airport, the checkpoint from the highway. They have these security checkpoints going into the airport where they check to make sure people are safe, nobody's bringing in weapons or anything to the airport. Vehicle rammed through that checkpoint and actually caused the terminal, even though it wasn't right next to the terminal, right at the terminal. The road that this man ran through with his vehicle was headed towards Terminal 3 here in Israel, and they actually locked down the terminal for a few minutes, asked all the passengers to get down on the floor, lay down on the floor to make sure the incident was not like a cover for a larger attack, something like that. And they locked down the airport only for a few minutes, it seems, but the security guards at the checkpoint shot at the vehicle, and they actually lightly wounded one of the attackers who tried to escape on foot. The vehicle was stopped, and the perpetrators, two perpetrators who actually believe have been believed to steal the vehicle, they were arrested and taken in for questioning. So thankfully that wasn't a larger attack, or nobody was injured. No innocent civilians were injured in this attack. At the airport, very interesting, but a Palestinian police later stated that the vehicle was hijacked by Palestinians who live inside of Judea and Samaria, and they were in Israel, or in the Tel Aviv, Israel proper area illegally, actually. But the incident, according to the airport authority, they said that the vehicle was stopped on the roads towards Terminal 3, that's the main terminal here in the Tel Aviv airport, and that the incident is still under investigation. So kind of an interesting story there. Very unusual that somebody is going to the airport to attack, to commit a terror attack like that. But thankfully nobody was injured, and they were able to stop this attack before something worse could have happened. Also, Gaza fired a rocket Saturday night into Israel. Now, this is the second time, I believe, that we've seen rocket fire from Gaza since the last major round of rockets that happened back in August. And the IDF went in and destroyed a bunch of the weapons factories back in August. And this is the second time it's happened. I think there was a rocket that was shot in the beginning of November as well. But around 8 o'clock p.m. Saturday night, a rocket was fired from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip into Israel. And actually, the Iron Dome anti-missile systems, defense systems here in Israel, were not activated because they were able to tell that the missile was not headed to a populated area. It was going to an unpopulated area. They turned out to be correct, and the missile exploded in an open field. Nobody was injured, thank God. The IDF, however, are going to hold these guys responsible, and they went in and immediately attacked a weapons site inside of Gaza. The rocket was shot off from Gaza. Rocket alert sirens were heard in the towns of Kfar Aza, which is right there next to Gaza, and Nachal Oz, and actually the residents heard the missile explode out in the open field. But the IDF swift response neutralized actually a large weapons factory in the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip. According to Arut Sheva, the IDF fighter jets targeted weapons manufacturing system site belonging to Hamas. And it was actually, they believe it was the main manufacturing site of all the Hamas, most of the Hamas missiles that come out of Gaza, where the majority of the organization's rockets are made and manufactured inside of Gaza. So the IDF went in and bombed this weapons manufacturing factory and completely destroyed it. So that's a very, very good sign. It seems that hopefully that'll slow down the production of rockets that the Hamas is constantly making inside of the Gaza Strip. We'll see where that goes in the future. The IDF spokesperson unit said, quote, "The strike overnight continues to progress to impede the force buildup of the Hamas terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip." Now, during the airstrike, when the IDF went in with fighter jets and took out this weapons site inside of Gaza, that Hamas, the terrorists in Gaza, terrorist organization Hamas, actually fired off rockets at the Israeli jets. Hamas said that they launched 2 rockets at Israeli fighter jets. Some of the Israeli sources say there were 5 rockets launched at the IDF, military jets, and then the IDF, in response to that, hit another Hamas military position where more terrorists were. Again, the IDF is holding these terrorist organizations responsible, saying you're not going to get away with shooting at unarmed civilians or shooting at any civilian population centers for no reason. And we're going to hold you responsible. And there's going to be basically a response, a swift response to any rocket fire that comes out of Gaza. And that's what happened Saturday night. They're very thankful that nobody was injured and it did not turn into more rocket fire coming from Gaza as we've seen in the past. Now, there were actually reports from Egyptian reports from Egyptian intelligence agencies that they were in talks with the Palestinian Arabs to prevent a escalation, quote, escalation of the situation in the Gaza Strip. Let me tell you what will prevent an escalation in the Gaza Strip, the situation in the Gaza Strip. The main thing that's could prevent this escalation is, it's very simple, actually. Don't shoot rockets at Israel. That's pretty much the long and short of it. You don't shoot rockets at Israel, you don't get hit by the Israeli forces. You don't commit terror attacks against Israel, and you're not arrested and taken out by Israel's defense forces here in Israel. So that's what's happening. Thankfully, more rockets weren't shot off and nobody was injured in this attack. Could have been, again, a lot worse, as we've seen in the past several years with rocket barrages coming out of Gaza. And it seems like this time Hamas may have been responsible for this attack. All right, just actually Friday, before Shabbat here in Israel, a tour guide in Samaria, he's not from Samaria, but he was driving through Samaria, and he actually escaped a deadly attack by driving through a roadblock of burning tires. So Shlomi Lobaton, who's a resident of Rosh Ha'ain, he's a rappelling tour guide and was on his way home on Friday when terrorists closed the road off with burning tires and started throwing rocks at him in his car. The attack happened on Route 505 near Migdalim, and Shlomi recalls the incident very shaken up. Shlomi says, quote, "Yesterday on my way home on Route 505, just after the town of Migdalim, they closed off the road," they being the Arabs, Palestinian Arabs, "they closed off the road with burning tires, forcing me to slow and stop. Suddenly, I looked to the side and saw a group of young people dressed in black with their faces covered, starting to throw rocks at me and come really close to me. They broke the rear window. Within a second, I understood what was happening, and I escaped through the burning tires and all the rocks that were thrown at me. To my luck, did not cause bodily harm." Excuse me. He continued talking about the attack. Is very shaken up afterwards. He said, "The images of the rocks," excuse me. "The images of the rocks that were thrown at me and the young people running toward me, I can't get it out of my head. I am constantly recalling what happened and what could have happened, and I really feel like I was saved by a miracle. It could have all ended differently." He said, "The images of the Arab youth with the rocks in their hands who only want to hurt and to kill, and just because I am a Jew, keep coming back to me." So obviously this is a very traumatic event for this tour guide from Rosh Ha'ain, driving through Samaria, and he's stopped by this roadblock of burning tires. So they spread burning tires across the road. He couldn't continue further. He stops. He sees these Arabs crowding around him on both sides of the road, hurling rocks at his vehicle, which is can be very, very dangerous. And people have died from rocks being hurled into vehicles driving down the road. He's very scared, obviously, and all of a sudden a rock comes through his back window. He realizes he has to get out of there very, very quickly. And thankfully, he had the presence of mind that he could actually drive through the tires, which also was dangerous, but he managed to get through that as well. His vehicle didn't catch on fire or anything that could have potentially happened, but thank God he was able to escape from that incident quickly, and he was not injured anymore, or injured at all. No bodily harm, but obviously he's very, very shaken up and traumatized by that event just happening here in Samaria. So the security forces here in Judea and Samaria are doing a very, very good job of responding quickly to attacks and being preemptive and arresting people that are planning to attack Jewish civilians and Israelis here in Judea and Samaria as well. But there are attacks that have been happening over the last several weeks and months throughout different places in Samaria. And one attack that actually happened in Huwara, which is right down the road from us, we're recording live here on Har Bracha in Samaria. One attack drew some pretty crazy headlines Friday afternoon, right before Shabbat. A lot of crazy headlines in the media. And so I'm going to read several of these headlines, and you tell me whether you can see if you can figure out the story from these headlines that I'm going to read right here, just from the headlines. Al Jazeera reports, Israeli police accused of executing Palestinian in West Bank. The MENA News reports, Palestinian youth shot dead in scuffle with Israeli police. TRT World News says, killed in cold blood. Palestinians protest Israeli point-blank killing. ABC News and CBS News report, Palestinians say killing caught on video was unjustified. So these are just several of the headlines that first popped up when I Googled the incident that happened just 2 days ago on Friday here in Huwara, just down the road. Let me tell you what actually happened, because the media, everybody is calling this an unjustified killing, an execution. Even Al Jazeera is saying execution of this Palestinian 22-year-old by the Israeli police. What's the real story here? What actually happened? So, Friday afternoon, a 22-year-old Palestinian armed with a knife had attempted to break into the vehicle of an off-duty IDF officer and his wife. So an IDF officer and his wife off-duty traveling home through Huwara. While trying to break the window of the car, the car was locked, obviously, he couldn't get in. Trying to break the window of the car with a rock, the IDF officer shot at him and lightly wounded this terrorist that was trying to attack this couple in their car with a knife, and obviously he's breaking the window with a rock. So then the terrorist spots two border police officers, which are right on there in the road, in the area, in the middle of this Palestinian Arab town of Huwara. They spot these the terrorist spots two border police officers right there and attacks them. He stabs one of them and then starts fighting with another one, stabbing him in the face at the same time. The terrorists, along with actually, there's a video of what happened. We may not show the full extent of it because it is a bit disturbing, and that this terrorist starts fighting with the police officer. Two other Palestinians start fighting with him as well. So there's one police officer, three Palestinians. The two guys back off pretty soon, and the one young Palestinian is fighting with the police officer and trying to steal his M16, trying to take it away from the M16. The police officer, realizing the danger of himself and the other Israelis and even the Palestinian civilians in the area, and he realized that if he was able to get the M16 from him, there would be could be a massive attack, and a lot of people could be killed and even hurt there. So the police officer, realizing the danger, pulled his handgun and managed to neutralize the terrorist right there. So the company commander, the police officer who was involved in this incident, was fighting with this young terrorist. 22-year-old terrorist. He said, recalling the incident, he said, it took us a second to realize that this was an attack. I recognized the Israeli vehicle and the terrorist who immediately began to fight me. As soon as he grabbed my M16, I realized that if I don't neutralize him and he managed to steal my weapon, there will be a significant attack here and many innocent people will be hurt. I pulled out my gun and neutralized the terrorist. So yeah, this is what happened. Terrorist was trying to, with a knife, armed with a knife, trying to stab and kill innocent civilians in their cars. This is an off-duty IDF officer and his wife in a car. Then he goes and fights with the police, tries to steal the police officer's rifle, doesn't quite manage to do that, but he's fighting very hard, hitting the police officer. The police officer realized the danger here, that if he was able to get the gun away from him, there could be a huge attack and a lot of people could die. Pulls out his handgun. Thankfully, was carrying a handgun and was able to neutralize and stop this attack. This is what happened. Okay, so the United Nations Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, so he's a special coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Tor Wensland, responded to this stabbing attack. He says, quote, horrified by today's killing of a Palestinian man, I'm not going to say his name, during a scuffle with an Israeli soldier near Huwara in the West Bank. Let me repeat that. He said, horrified by today's killing of a Palestinian man during a scuffle with an Israeli soldier near Huwara in the West Bank. My heartfelt condolences to his bereaved family. Such incidents must be fully and promptly investigated and those responsible held accountable. He's saying this was a killing of a Palestinian man. Yes, unfortunately, the man died in the attack because he was trying to kill and murder Jews. This is what happens. This special coordinator for the UN Middle East peace process says nothing about the fact that this young man was trying to kill innocent Israeli civilians. He was trying to kill civilians. Says nothing about that. He just says that my condolences to his bereaved family. Such incidents must be fully and promptly investigated. My question is, that if this is the United Nations Special Coordinator for the peace process in the Middle East, how are we supposed to obtain a peace process when people can't even see the facts on the ground and can't even admit what's happening? They make up a completely opposite twist on the story, saying that this is a killing of a Palestinian man by the Israeli police. Absolutely crazy. I don't know how you could just have such a distorted view on what's happening. Didn't even bother, or maybe he did bother and didn't want to say, to look at the facts and what actually happened here. Israel's defense minister, Benny Gantz, praised the border police officer, definitely supporting the officer here, that neutralized the terrorist and called out Wensland's attack against him. He said, quote, I fully condemn the attempts to present the incident in a false and manipulative manner and the statement by the UN envoy to the Middle East against the officer who functioned with the determination and professionalism. And we can definitely see that with the officer's conduct in this attack. The officer who neutralized the terrorist and all IDF and border police combat personnel have full backing to continue to act against terrorism and to preserve the security of Israeli citizens. So definitely good that the Defense Minister of Israel is giving his full support and backing to this police officer who acted quickly and with the presence of mind to actually stop the threat and not get bogged down with maybe just continuing to try to fight for that rifle, and he could have lost control of it, and there could have been God forbid, we don't even want to know what could have happened, but it could have been a much worse attack that happened there. And thanking God as well for the security forces of Israel that are doing an incredible job to keep the citizens of Israel safe. Guys, we can't let the media win in this narrative where they're constantly spewing false and manipulative narratives that are trying to twist the stories in the complete opposite direction. What's happening here in the land of Israel, guys? If you see headlines like this anywhere in the news, don't believe it. Go check out the facts for yourself. Come here to the Israel Guys. Check out the other news sources where you know real facts coming from the ground in Israel. Don't believe the media's lies. Not true. They're constantly trying to spin it to the other way. If you see a headline like this, you can pretty much be guaranteed that pretty much the opposite of what they said happened actually on the ground here in Israel. So that's just another example of the false narrative and the media lies that are being pushed out through the media every single day. Thankfully, the officer seemed to be only lightly wounded with the stabbing. Could have been much worse as well. And we continue to pray for the speedy recovery of all those injured in this attack. Guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. In the meantime, tune out the fake news and tune in to what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.